Hey, Redmen Originals Podcast time. I'm Paul Machin. Alongside me, Chris Pajak. Dan Clubb shuffled out of position because he lost out.
Don't like it at all.
All out of kilter.
He lost out in a height battle. Aaron
Never been heard of.
Out of his position. Lost out to Kieo over on the wing. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. Nice to be back.
Yeah, great to have you in. Of course, Kieo, who's been lighting up the stage with us for the last year. Lighting up the darkness that we've left behind.
Yeah, picking up the pieces.
So yeah, great to have him back in the studio again. Loads of stuff to get through and talk about. Least of all, Liverpool's 2-2 draw with Fulham and a bit of the fallout from that. We'll be looking ahead to the midweek game against Southampton as well, which I entirely forgot was happening when I was booking all the things that I have to do this week, so I look forward to a very fatigued Paul Machin on the watch along on Wednesday for that one. But yeah, actually, a couple of things I just want to touch upon. So you guys, first and foremost, Dan and Kieo, had a little chat last week about Keo's book. Yeah. You ran out to the car to make sure you had a copy to show off because Dan's robbed the office copy. A little early Christmas present box for himself there. But yeah, it's been out for a little while, isn't it?
It's been out for a little while, but done a reprint and a restock this year for Christmas. It's going well. People seem to love it. I mean, you love it.
I love it, yeah.
To pinch out.
I'm taking that one later.
Yeah. chain this to the desk. But yeah, it's, for those who don't know, it's a rhyming picture, illustrated songbook to get young Liverpool fans singing the songs we sing every week, nice and early. You can buy a copy at myfirstliverpoolsongs.com. That's how you plug your own stuff, that in. That was good, that one. Yeah. But yeah, myfirstliverpoolsongs.com. Have a little look and check it out.
It is. There are ideas that come across your desk every so often, and you go, oh, why didn't I think of that? And that is what is a perfect example. That's a sign of a great thing. Where if you go, oh, obviously, you know what I mean? Like, and that's it astounds me that almost like no one else has done it before. But again, it speaks to the quality. You know, you've been there at the forefront of the sort of that rise of the Liverpool culture and the song culture over the last 8 years or 7 years or whatever. So yeah, you're almost the perfect person really to bring it into.
And
the
also,
world.
when I was a kid, I was just obsessed with everything that was Liverpool. If I could get my hands on a CD, a calendar, you name it, I'd want it and I'd keep it. So hopefully, kids feel the same way about this book. And let's face it, it's not just for the kids either, it's for parents, isn't it, to try and get the kids singing along to Liverpool songs as quickly as possible.
And yeah, all the people who go to Anfield and don't know the words.
That's another point as well.
Probably do themselves a favour with all of that. Okay, Sam, and just briefly, I did the Aldo Meets podcast this week with Craig Johnston. He then went on to his own event and you had a chat with him as well. He is, Dan, one of the loveliest human beings on planet Earth.
Yeah, and one of my favourite conversations I've ever had, let alone in sort of work circles. It was remarkable, honestly. Great listen. He did the events prior, obviously. I sat there and listened to him. Could listen to him for hours, to be honest with you. Nowhere near long enough. And then we're lucky enough to have a 10-15 minute conversation with him thereafter. It's a fascinating, really unique story, but sort of beyond that, just what a gentleman, what a humble fella that he was. He described himself as the worst player in the best football team in the world, but that just speaks to what he was as a person. Honestly, his story from sort of his childhood to where he got to and walking away from football age 27 was fascinating. And yeah, really fortunate to spend a bit of time with him and get a bit of insight, and yeah, that's out on our website now, that chat. So yeah, boss fella.
Absolutely. So yeah, the chat with Kieo and a chat with Craig Johnston out now.
You were better.
I was about to say there, like, it doesn't sound too good when you say it like
that. Two famously curly haired gentlemen interviewed by Dan this past week. Anyway, Chris, you had your birthday last week.
I did have my birthday last week. Yeah, thank you very much. It was excellent. I'm 21 again.
Double.
Yeah.
I'm reaching your second 21.
Yeah, I think you should really make more of that. If 21's really big, then surely 42's massive as well.
Well, you are now the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe and everything. So there we go.
I didn't do anything fun, no, apart from going out and getting pissed on Saturday after the match, which is bosh.
Which was probably sound. Right, cool. Yeah, before we delve into Liverpool 2, Fulham 2, there's another episode of Axe Player Portrait out right now, featuring Sophie Lungard and Marie Herbinger. I had the joy of hosting this one with two absolutely brilliant people. Here's a little clip of that.
I'm ready. Oh, can I do one more thing? I forgot the nose. That looks like Botox.
Sophie, how you doing?
Really good. Mine is awful. Oh my God, he looks like a man. Why are you laughing? She's gonna hate me so much. Mine is a hard one.
Why don't I have a neck?
Can you see who it is? I'm actually a bit surprised about my skills.
Yeah, head over to the AXA UK YouTube channel to check out the full episode there. Obviously, it's the 4th episode. I enjoyed filming every single one of them, but I had such a laugh with that one. Really, here we go. First start is an absolutely amazing central midfielder. Sophie Lundgaard, I just want to send positive vibes towards there. She suffered an ACL recently, so she's currently recuperating. But yeah, really, really good show. Great vibe. They live together, so they're like the camaraderie between the two. Really, really good stuff. The link will be in the description underneath, so go and check it out. Right, before we delve into Liverpool 2, Fulham 2, breaking news: Pep Lijnders has been sacked as manager of RB Salzburg, or is it Red Bull Salzburg? It's Red Bull Salzburg, right? They're the ones that are allowed to say Red Bull.
You can't say it with Leipzig. It's RB Leipzig, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's the Germans doing the footy right and not letting the advertisers into the team names. Makes a good thing.
Dan. I mean, this was coming, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, the writing has been on the wall a little bit, which in part explains why I hot-footed it to Austria as soon as I did a couple of weeks back to have a conversation with him, really. Yeah, it has been coming. The results haven't stacked up at all. There was a couple of results prior to me going over there. I was thinking, oh God, I hope that isn't the one that breaks the camel's back. But they actually won 4-0, and I was there watching, and like I say, got a chance to speak to him after it, and it felt as though that could have been a turning point, of course, but then I've kept an eye on results since, and it hasn't really worked. So it's a shame for Pep, obviously, going back into management after the spell he had prior to coming to Liverpool, and etc., etc. We know how brilliant he was as a coach of us and assistant manager to Jurgen, of course. So it's a big blow, it's a big shame. I don't know what his next move will be. It's obviously in advance of Klopp coming in sort of above him in the Red Bull sort of hierarchy as a group. What it means for Stefan Bajcetic is a conversation from a set Liverpool-centric point of view, and what happens next there will be interesting. But yeah, ultimately disappointing for him.
They kind of had to sack him before Jurgen got there, though.
I was about to say that. He didn't want Jurgen pulling the trigger on him, did he?
Not on his first day. Yeah. What have I got to do today?
Sack your best mate.
Jurgen, welcome. Come in, sit down.
Can we have a word?
Close the door. Yeah. Fifth in the Austrian Bundesliga, 10 points off the top.
And the Champions League record's been dismal as well so far. So
it will be interesting to see what happens with Bajcetic, because you've been talking to people, haven't you, Dan? And the general sense is that although he's finding his feet, he's actually been a bit of a shining light for them so far this season.
Yeah, I think the quality has shone through, albeit obviously early season he was so sort of removed from playing any regular sort of standard of football. He played a little bit at the back end of last season for 21s for us, and I think maybe had a really small look in the first team right at the end of the season. But I think in terms of what he had to offer and what he'd bring to the table, and once his sort of fitness was built up to a certain point, there's a lot of optimism that maybe you would see the best version of Stefan, and he would sort of nail down a place and ultimately be a bit too good for the Austrian Bundesliga. But now this has happened, who knows what the next move is.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, okay, let's move things forward then. Chris Pajak, hello.
Hi, mate.
Looking resplendent in a very Christmassy thing.
Christmas jumper, isn't it? You know what I mean? The thing is, once my birthday's out the way, we can move on to Christmas.
Of course. Yeah, of course. It's a little late. I have this out with people whose birthdays are in November. It's like, get over yourselves, it's Christmas. Just fucking get Home Alone on and crack on. Right, so fucking 10th of December. Anyway, the match. Look, we were chatting about it just before we went on, that there's a real load of misery online. There always is, because people in life are just generally miserable. I didn't watch the match live. I had to watch it in full this morning on the back of knowing and seeing the fallout rather than seeing the actual action itself. I saw my dad this morning before he came into the final words, and he was like, "Oh, great game of football." I sat down and, knowing the outcome, I also wanted to, it strips the emotion out of it. I was a full-blown telly clapping, fist pumping, all kinds, sat on my own having my breakfast this morning watching that game. So as much as a disappointing result, it was a scintillating game of football.
Yeah, I can totally see that. But the emotion of it wasn't stripped out in the game, and it was end to end. And I thought Liverpool did really well when they went down to 10 men and stuff. But there was still a disappointment. Now, the only thing for me, and I don't know what anyone else was like at the time, was we kind of knew what Arsenal were doing as well. So that was tempering it a little bit. It was like, well, hang on, they're still 0-0, so it's okay. We're not losing race points to them and all that type of stuff. But as far as the game itself goes, it was fun. It was gnarly in terms of the atmosphere, and it got really loud in the second half, didn't it? And there was a lot of anger in the ground as well, though. And I don't know whether that was necessarily all good. because there was a lot of anger at Liverpool players, Trent Alexander-Arnold in particular and stuff like that. But I remember we were speaking this morning, weren't we? And Dan come in and Dan's like, what do you think of Trent? I was like, well, I think I'm going against what everybody else has said. But I kind of felt like he was a bit of a cheat code in terms of when you've got 10 men, he can move you down the pitch like that. And that you probably always need him. That being said, I think he has a big part in both goals that we concede, and I don't think defensively he was very good at all. But I would have still kept him on for him having that opportunity to do something for us.
Yeah, I was anticipating him having one of the all-time great stinkers at Anfield from the fallout from it, and it was yeah. I think the defensive stuff is exacerbated by the fact that he's being asked to play like an old school Trent performance of playing right back for most of the game, which doesn't aid his getting back in and doing a lot of the solid sorts of defensive stuff. But I was expecting him to properly stink the gaff out in all aspects of the game. And I thought he was all right. But let's talk about the main sort of instance, really, Dan. We'll start with Robbo. Just a mad 17 minutes of football. It was everything combined into 17 minutes. It was barnstorming, attacking, run in the first minute. It was getting volleyed out the game almost in doing so. Yeah. He makes a mistake. You could argue a positional, maybe a slight positional mistake or whatever, leading to the goal. He gets sent off. All of life is in that 17 minutes.
Yeah, he was at the scene of all the crimes, wasn't he? Really good and bad, really, Andy Robertson, for that part of the game. It was chaotic, really. And listen, the sending off is clearly the worst one of the lot, I would say. I think he might still be suffering the consequences of that tackle, if you want to call it a tackle, for Mr. Diop. I think Arne Slot was at pains to stress that post-game, that maybe wasn't quite as sharp as he should have been, because he was still feeling the effects. It's the touch that causes the problem. The touch is horrific, really. It's he gets it wrong, he doesn't trap it by any stretch of imagination, it's not under his control anymore, and then he compounds the error by lunging to try and sort of make up for it. It's not it's a car crash, 17 minutes, to be honest, from Andy Robertson. And there's a lot of... The knives are out for Andy Robertson a little bit, I think it's fair to say. There's a wider conversation to have here, but I think people are sort of immediately forgetting. I think we've manned the match in midweek for us, and I think he's sort of turned his form around a little bit. I thought he was brilliant against Aston Villa, for example. So, yes, there are early signs. Some people go back further than I would, that maybe the best of Andy Robertson is now a thing of the past. But
I think the best is behind him. But that doesn't mean he's shit.
But people are.
It just means he's not at his peak
writing
anymore.
him off immediately.
Yeah,
and again, this 17 minutes in a microcosm is an easy sort of 17 minutes just to go, well, that's why, really.
He's the one I think I've seen the most negativity around post-match, Kieo. Yeah. And it's all that is negativity, I think, from earlier in the season, rearing its head. The thing that does my head in about it is it's kind of what the lads are saying there. I think he's been really good the last few weeks, and in a time period where we were saying, I'm not sure about Robbo, we might be seeing him on the wane, but he was in rotation with Tsimikas, and then all of a sudden Tsimikas isn't available. Robertson's played basically every minute pretty much since then, and he's put in some great shifts, but because he's had a bad performance, he gets the red card and it puts the pressure on Liverpool. I think it makes it very easy to skip back a month almost and go, oh no, he's been crap all season long.
That's what people are doing as well. I'll be honest with you, I think it's been a bit of up and down season for Robbo. I'm not one of them people who are in that camp of he's finished, he's done, because at times I was looking at him going, his engine's still there, he's still up and down, and if your legs are gone, that's not something you do. It's up and down. It seems to be decision making and almost fine margins, which could be because he is starting to slow down. You're right, we have had the best of Andy Robertson, but it doesn't mean he's done yet. However, it was a bad first 15 to 17 minutes, and the reason why people are angry is because once it happened, we knew we were in for a tough game. Fulham are a decent side, Silva's got them playing. It was always going to be a nightmare, that sending off. It wasn't going to be an easy ride, so people are jumping on his back because he has cost us a little bit. I think also another reason why we're so nervous over Robbo is because the second choice isn't amazing as well. We can be up and down with Tsimikas. I think if we had another young left back come in who was not far off reaching his peak, we wouldn't be so stressed out about Andy Robertson's performances all the time.
Well, if you had another Conor Bradley, you'd
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So, Robbo's been absolutely amazing for Liverpool, like amazing. Been one of our best left backs ever. So you won't catch me jumping down his throat. However, I do think it may be time to start looking for that next left back, and that means for me not moving Andy Robertson on. It means probably moving Tsimikas on and managing Robbo's minutes a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wonder whether we're reaching a point where I don't think he's likely to do it. But someone needs to aware about Scotland, I think, because and this just might be one of those things where, because we'd said he doesn't really have a summer because of the Euros. He's then not right when the season starts, so he doesn't have a pre-season with Liverpool. So we're trying to get him up and running. And again, he's reached that point where I remember speculating in like September, where the slot actually sees him in Tsimikas as kind of much of a muchness. And the question is that because Robertson's dipped and maybe Tsimikas is getting a nice little run and we're seeing the best of Tsimikas? Or is it just that thing where Robertson's going to get back into shape, back into fitness, and we're going to see the best of Andy Robertson? Well, at the point where we might have been seeing the best of him, any chance of him getting any sort of rest and rotation's gone. So you actually can't be unequivocal in that. The jury for me is still a little bit out. But I do think there might have to be a conversation if he wants to have a longer term. So there's a lot of miles on Andy Robertson.
That's what I was about to say. One of the reasons why is not just because of one isolated performance or a couple of bad performances this year. If you look at Andy Robbo's game during his Liverpool, he must have run around the world about 50 times.
Just against Man City, that one time.
Do you know what I mean? So it's naturally, I mean, your legs are they are gonna start going at some point. But he does seem to have the engine still there. But when you get down to fine margins, he obviously. That was one the other day. He's late on the tackle and it costs us because of the bad touch. So, yeah, it's a tough one.
He's got a lot of credit in the bank, though, hasn't he? Ultimately, years ago, Jurgen says, he can't be having them play 50 games a year. He played 50 games a year ever since Jurgen said that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I think the injury probably does impact his decision making and his poor touch and everything else. I mean, he's down for probably 3 or 4 minutes at the time, and he knows there's no left back on the bench, and he knows that if he doesn't get back up, then everything that they've planned for all week is out the window. And that's the type of person that he is. Yeah. He's not going to let Liverpool down. He's not going to let his teammates down. He's going to try everything he can to stay on the pitch.
And then he's like, we'll play so much better with 10 men here.
Yeah, but sometimes that's at your detriment, isn't it? It hasn't worked out this time, but that is what I've loved Andy Robertson for the last 6-7 years, because he's willing to do that for us and for his teammates and everything else. So, listen, it's a bad 17 minutes. Don't write him off. In fact, if there was one player in the squad who I would write off less, I can't think of them. Because he's likely to come back and go, fuck this, no, I'm going to keep going, or I'll try my hardest. Yeah, he did it.
He come out recently and he's obviously aware of the dissenting voices around him and his Liverpool career in the long, medium and short term, but he came out and basically said as much as that, like, write me off at your peril. And then lo and behold, his next 3, 4, 5 performances were really good, and then this one ultimately.
Giving away 2 penalties and got sent off in like the so far this season in amongst it, I guess. Look, I agree on all of it, by the way. Just on people's general opinions on this one, because it's all tied into the refereeing performance as well. So I can see why he's been sent off. Anyone have any disagreement?
After the fact, I've read stuff that suggests that he perhaps shouldn't have been. In the ground, I had no complaints whatsoever about him being sent off. I hadn't seen any replays. I didn't look at positioning of players or anything like that. He took him down and I went, well, that's a sending off. And everyone around me was in the same boat. So, and I hadn't seen it again until this morning. Yeah. When I watched it all, and then I read Dale Johnson's ESPN stuff, because it's always interesting to find out what he's saying and all that type of stuff. When I watched it back, I was a bit like, it wasn't as clear cut, I don't think, as I thought it was in the ground, but I had absolutely no complaints from where I was.
I have no qualms with being a red card whatsoever. As much as I'd love to sit here and say it's not because of X, Y, Z, I think it's a red card. And the only saving grace potentially was the offside, which was obviously very tight. It took a while to sort of make sure it was on. But yeah, I watched my own reaction back, funnily enough, on the watch along today, and the minute he gets his touch wrong and the minute he lunges in, he's gone. And that's literally what I do and say, is that he's in trouble here, he's gone. Because just the situation, you can argue Virgil might get back across and do it potentially, but you can't not get that tackle right and expect to stay on the pitch for me.
For the sake of argument, Chris referenced that Dale Johnson on the ESPN VAR review says it's actually not red cards, because Harry Wilson's touch
is too heavy.
It's too heavy, and he doesn't kick it towards goal. He plays the ball away from himself, and this again, it goes back to the small details. As fans, I looked at it and went, okay, yeah, fair play, he's banged to rights there, isn't he? But actually, it goes back to it. I'm not expected to know the rules, but the VAR should should have some consideration for these kind of things. And I say it's funny that we sit here going, if VAR doesn't exist, he's sent off, it's a red card, he gets off immediately, you crack on with the game and you take one because Robertson's dropped a bit of a bollock there. But again, it's another instance where when you actually pour over the rules and someone who knows the rules and applies the rules could tell you it's not. I mean, it does talk in the article about Liverpool. I've basically got grounds to appeal the ban on that, which, hey, listen, if they want to do that, then...
What was yours in the ground?
I thought it was a pen. But
Sending off?
Yeah, sorry, sort of sending off, yeah, but I mean, it's a pen. I thought it was sending off, but I'm the same as you. When you look back after the fact and you're seeing the article and you're seeing people who know the rules inside out saying it wasn't, then fair enough. Fair enough. Like, it means it probably could have went either way, but...
Felt like a red.
Yeah, but the thing that annoyed me most in the ground, and again, it comes back to the fact that I don't know the rules, like the ins and outs of a cat's arse. Yeah, I was like, hang on a minute. He's had a shot, Virgil's cleared it. Why have they gone back, give him a red card and give them the free kick? Surely it should be a throw-in or a corner or something. But it turns out that the rules are the chances only apply to the player.
So it's Harry Wilson.
Specific.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's basically it's Harry Wilson.
So they got to have a shot on goal. Then it got pulled back. Then they get another shot on goal, which they nearly scored from, by the way, the free kick.
Yeah,
all on the basis, and we get a man sent off. I'm like, come on, like, you know what I mean?
What was interesting, obviously, Robertson's first involvement in the match was the Diop, again, tackle, inverted commas, because it was fucking ridiculous.
He's quick to pull that flag up then, though, wasn't he?
Well,
fucking close to offside.
The offside remained the offside, but he still felt obliged to book Diop because that's how bad of a challenge it was. That was another interesting footnote.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of those, like, what's intent and what's the amount of force and all this kind of stuff, and it's, you know, because for me, I've got it here, everything is a yellow card according to this referee. Everything that happened in that football match was worthy of a yellow card. Luis Diaz tries an overhead kick, and you know, and that's a high boot, and you go, mate, free kick, it's a high boot. You know, shit happens. If you score from that, then you've got to. I think they're actively trying to discourage people scoring worldies for whatever reason.
Too flamboyant.
But yeah, too fancy for our like,
yellow cards.
Can't do that.
Yeah. Too much flair. Yeah. He wants to Strictly Come Dancing and go, no, everyone in matte black clothes at all times, no sequins, terrible. But you know, those are the kind of things that are getting yellow cards. So Luis Diaz is not set out to kick him in the head, but at the same time, they've gone at a yellow card offence. I don't think either Diop. It's Diop. Is that the first one? Is he both? Is he the Tete, isn't it, for the Joe Gomez one in the second half?
Is Diop on Gravenberch again?
No, that's
Pereira's on
Pereira.
Gravenberch. Yeah. All of these, the particular the Diop one and the Tete one, which are, I don't think either of them really know that the guys, you know what I mean? They're not like aiming to they're not trying to tackle the person that they've fouled. They're trying to kick a ball or whatever. But like, he absolutely cleaned out two men in those instances, and mad. No one knows.
You see what Virgil said about the ref post game? He said that he was talking to some of the Fulham players, and everyone felt like he was nervous.
Yeah, I was about to say that then. I couldn't remember who said it. Though. I was trying to remember whether it was Virgil or not, but that speaks volumes. That, doesn't it?
Worrying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's a bit worrying.
It's Tony Harrington, wasn't it? Yeah, it's definitely a name I'll remember from now on because it was an all-timer. It was an all-timer, wasn't it? Though it was just shocking.
I was going to add this on, but I read some of Paul Tompkins' post-match stuff, and I didn't get onto it until the last minute where we kick one down the line, and the linesman gives the throw in.
Oh, that linesman, mate!
And he gets over that is the fattest linesman I've ever seen in my entire life.
Honestly, he was right in front of us. We got on to him after about 5 minutes, Paul. Like, he couldn't keep up with the line. He was 5 yards off our defensive line, and they were just backpedaling. They weren't running fast. They were backpedaling, and it wasn't funny. He just couldn't keep up with it, and you're like, I'm not having a go at his weight or his size or anything like that.
No, because
you should be able to keep up. And he was about 50 years old. He was spherical, and he wasn't going downhill. So he had no chance.
If he's a private individual and not in a sporting institution, he can be whatever shape he wants to be. But if he's supposed to be the guy, he couldn't see down the line for his belly
up with Premier League footballers.
Jesus fucking Christ!
Listen, if he can keep up with them and he's round, fine.
Yeah.
But if he can't, whatever shape, he shouldn't be doing it.
TikToks of like husky lads doing flips and stuff like that. We've all seen Chris Pajak's cartwheels, for God's sake. You can be a bigger gentleman and still be athletic. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Like, you can definitely be it. You know, so like, cool, man. No problem. I'm not looking to fat shame at all, man. Be you. But you know, he's official in the Premier League, and I didn't even know what it was all about until I just saw that one, and you saw it down the line, and it was like, that guy can't see his toes. How can he see the line on the pitch? To decide when things are in or out. Wild, absolutely wild set of officials. I'll stick with you, Chris, because I know this is very much your bag. I thought Liverpool's reorganisation post the red card was one of the most fascinating periods of football ever, particularly that first half where we clearly tried something, it didn't work, and then he tried something else, and that is effectively moving Gomez to the left of Van Dijk. And once he did that, we really barely looked back for the rest of the game.
It was fascinating in some ways, I think, for all of us, because we've not seen what he was going to do. And so we've learned something about Slot and his tactics every single week. Every new situation that's presented to us, you learn a little bit more. It's like a little scratch card where you get to just scratch off a bit more, isn't it, and find out. And so for me, I was fascinated to see what he did. I think it was also... what part of his decision making was the fact that Tsimikas wasn't available, and that Robertson, was the guy to get sent off. Maybe had Tsimikas been available, something different happens in the future. So to see Gravenberch basically go to the centre of a back three, to then see Virgil move to the left, and then see, who was it on the right hand side? Gomez was on the right hand side. I was like, okay, that's really interesting. But what was the really fascinating thing for me is that Van Dijk was following Jimenez. He wasn't setting his position. I don't know whether this only happened for like a 5-minute period, so I don't know whether everyone will have noticed it. So whenever Jimenez was running, Van Dijk was going with him, and Gravenberch was actually swapping. Gravenberch had ended up at left side at centre half, and then I think they realised they sort of messed it up a couple of times, and Fulham didn't take advantage of it. And then I think Slot then gets involved and changes it again.
So what if effectively it starts out is Gakpo and Trent as almost wing backs in that. So Gakpo's effectively playing left back for us, and there's one where someone gets to the bar, I think Jimenez gets there and doesn't square it, and there's like two Fulham men completely unmarked, and that's the point where they go, right, this is not the one here. And then Gomez just, Gomez effectively plays left side of a back three, left back, and an inverted central midfielder for most of the game thereafter. But that solved that problem of them overloading at the back stick, because Gomez just had that covered from me. I thought Gomez was absolutely brilliant all game long from there.
Yeah, he was absolutely superb.
Do you know what the best part it was for me? We didn't just go into like panic red card mode. We didn't just sort of go, right, we've lost the man on 10-15 minutes here, let's just sit in, let's just try and frustrate.
And that's what Gravenberch's position was.
A few times when Arsenal went down to 10 men, they just went to red card mode. We were trying things. So we got 75-80 minutes left of this football match here. We need to do something with it, and that's what he was trying. At one point, Gravenberch's in centre half. I'll be honest with you, I haven't got a UEFA coaching badge. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was watching it going, what is happening here? But then just please settle. And once it settled, I sort of realised what we were up to. But I just like the fact that the manager rolled his sleeves up and didn't just sort of like, well, we can't change much here. But he didn't. He did. He changed everything, and it worked.
Because you don't move Gravenberch to centre back. You just don't. I mean, this was a lad that last season couldn't play the 6, and now all of a sudden this 8 is now playing centre half for you.
Centre midfield, centre half.
That was so integral to us being able to move the ball forward, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's superb. He was, and it's interesting how I didn't realise him and Virgil van Dijk did so much sort of swapping, and Van Dijk was taking defensive responsibility, which of course makes perfect sense. But to stop Gravenberch getting in one-on-one battles and duels with João Jimenez is a absolute no-brainer. I was going to ask you, I'll ask you sort of both and Paul as well. Did you immediately expect substitutions from Arne Slot when we went down to 10?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Like a Kwanzaa on?
Yeah,
something like that.
Much. That's what I was thinking.
Were you thinking changes, or were you thinking with the men on the pitch?
I didn't think he would. I reckon if Tsimikas was available, then the change would have come on. But I just couldn't see him throwing Quansah in the firing line there, given what's happened with Ipswich and given what happened a couple of times with Quansah. He's 1 or 2 bad games away from like being in a bad place. Quansah, you know what I mean? Through no real fault of his own. Obviously, there's been mistakes, but he's in a situation with his eyes on him now, and the manager pulled him a couple of times. Yeah, it would have felt a little bit.
I think if you're not 1-0 down, I think he does
because he has to go for the game anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know that you're going to waste a substitution. Whereas I just thought it was smart. And again, it goes back to trying something doesn't work. We've got away with one. Let's shift it again. And it was fascinating just seeing the different iterations of how the midfield work as well. Like there was a point where it was like a midfield diamond with Trent and Gakpo of like sort of left and right of it, with Szoboszlai as the sort of tip, and then we went back to more like 3 up front and and keeping Gakpo. It was just, you can't, if you're away, you might have changed it as well, but you're at home when you're 1-0 down and you're top of the league, so there's absolutely nothing to be gained by bringing Jarell Quansah on and losing a footballer who might win the game for you.
It was probably Trent would have been the one sacrificing that circumstance, and he is the one who you look to in those sort of circumstances. You mentioned it, he can win the game.
Old school football management, you take a forward off. If you lose a defender, you'll take one of your front 3 off, and you'll trust that you've got enough attacking firepower. So one of your wide men probably comes off in as the basic football logic in that.
I was thinking, well, Gomez goes over to left back, and then you can put Quansah in. You know what I mean? You can mess around with that.
I just couldn't work out when we were stood there waiting. I just couldn't work out how he sets his sides up that doesn't keep you really exposed at the back, and that's why I thought he needed to make a change, because I was looking at it going, well, if you bring Trent and make him part of a back 3, right, that's a lot of space for Trent to cover, and with the greatest of respect to Trent, it's a lot, probably too much space for Trent to cover on his own, so you'd end up with Gomez, Van Dijk and Trent, and they're attacking down the left with Robinson and all that, and which he'd already struggled with for the first 15 minutes. So I was like, he's got to do something, and then lo and behold, the answer's just drop Gravenberch back in at centre half. I'm like, fair play.
And have him be the greatest centre half that's ever played for Liverpool in the time doing it as well. He was incredible, and he got his moment. He got his Canate slidey moment, didn't he, as well, where he running back and he goes to ground, comes away with it, carries the ball. Just they're the kind of things I think you need. But actually, I thought his composure, the way his positioning was generally really, really sharp and all that. And you're right, it didn't compromise what we were trying to do. And I think maybe this is where Fulham kind of got it wrong. And bear in mind, they nearly snatched it, didn't they? It would have been the right decision if they win that one 2-1. But I think another team might have gone, fuck it, these are here for the taking, we'll go for it. Whereas it didn't change either team's game plan. They were happy to try and sit back and hit us on the counter attack, and Liverpool wanted the ball. So really, we just carried on doing a bit more of the same, really. So yeah, credit to Marco Silva for having small bollocks in that regard, because it definitely helped us.
I think it confused Fulham. I think I'm saying I'm sat there going, what are Liverpool doing here? I think Marco Silva's doing the same. Like, what is going on here? What shape are these in here? And for the next 15-20 minutes, they don't know what's going on, and Liverpool start to get back into the game. And let's make no doubt about it, there's some Liverpool players who really stood up there, really stood up.
Yeah.
The other thing is as well, you see Slot call over Virgil van Dijk a couple of minutes afterwards. You obviously see him talking to them as it's happened. It happened on almost every set piece where he was speaking to somebody. And I didn't wonder this at the time, but I did wonder sort of post game. I was like, what does that do to Silva? You've just seen him do something and then change it, and then you're a bit like, and then he calls someone else over and he's talking to them, and he's like, he must be like, what's he changing now? And is he concentrating on what Fulham are doing, or is he concentrating on what Slot is doing with his players? And he's like, has he changed anything? Do I need to change something? And he just almost frees Silva by these conversations on the sidelines.
Yeah, I thought Liverpool were brilliant from then on. Really, I think it took us to about the half an hour mark to really sort of settle down and get to grips with what we were doing. But that final 15 minutes and stoppage time of that half, it's about like fist bumping something, you know what I mean? Like I find myself totally falling in love with some of the performances of that team. Gravenberch, obviously Joe Gomez, Szoboszlai I thought was brilliant as well. Actually, the amount of like block tackles he won, and I've been a little concerned about that from him at times. Like a little bit. Jamie Redknapp. I think hair's adding to that a bit of late, but I do get some Redknapp vibes sometimes of of him not quite being like again as full blood as he needs to be. But no, I thought he was great. And then what it leads to, obviously, Chris, second half, getting the early goal is everything that game really needed, because you can play well, but if you're not scoring, then the doubts creep in, and it only adds to the sort of the fuel to the fire of what Fulham are trying to do. So yeah, being able to score so early, brilliant.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful ball by Salah, and Fulham will be asking questions of how you've give Salah 15 yards of space all around him to whip a ball into the box. But the ball's on point. The diving header, which we don't see enough of, is on point. The header's absolutely perfect, isn't it? I actually didn't know who'd scored it at the time. We were level with sort of Diaz, so I couldn't tell whether it was Diaz or whether it was Gakpo, and the celebrations actually didn't really give me too much of a clue about who'd scored it either, because they both seemed to just go mental. I was like, well, which one of them there, not doing anything, because I couldn't really see him. I was like, he's just stood there, so did he score, type of thing. And no, it was brilliant. But a disappointing thing, I've spoken about how the atmosphere was and stuff during the game, and I think loads of credit needs to go to everyone who was in that ground, but it was so empty when that goal goes in. There was so many people not back in their seats and stuff like that, and you're like, come on, you know what I mean, this is a joke. And was
it cold?
No, I don't think so.
You're going to let them off then if it was?
No, but I'm just trying to work out because people go to footy, don't they? And this is like people will attribute it to day trippers and all that kind of stuff, but loads of local lads just don't bother their arse, because you go to the bar early and come back from the bar late and all
so
that.
Many people missed that goal, and it's proper disappointing. And I saw Robbo's put a tweet out of a photo from the celebrations where you see the main
Andy
stand.
Robertson's put a tweet.
No, Robbo, Gareth Roberts, and you see it, and it's like, bloody hell, we're 3-4 minutes into the half here, and half the main stand's not even there. It's not just the main stand. There was people around me as well who, weren't back in the seats and stuff like that, come down celebrating, and they've missed it, and it's just annoying that for me more than anything. And there's a fucking league title to be won. Get in your seat and sing, shout, do something effective in your own way.
Especially when the game's going like that, and you know they need it.
Yeah, 100%. It's I ultimately Liverpool getting the goals just massive, because I think you often have it in those games where you need to prove that you can do it, and actually the fans need it and the players need to know that what we're doing is the right thing. You need just rewards, because I've seen loads of times over these, we always talk about it on these shows, where you're a goal down and you go down to someone you should be beating. It's at home. Stoke are the forever example of all this, and if you don't get that goal, you're always like, and then it becomes 60 minutes, and then it's 65, and then it's 70, and instead of thinking about how you're going to win it, you're like, if we can just grab a draw here. But yeah, I mean, obviously Liverpool then go on and score another goal later on. But I thought it was great. I thought Salah was a great header from Gakpo. And Salah spoke about this the other week, didn't he, Dan, about how he knows that Gakpo's going to make that run. So he actually, he played, it was outside the boot the other week, but he knows if he puts the ball in that general area, that's Gakpo's instinct to be there.
Yeah, and that's quite something, that as well. It's not sort of a run that every single left winger would make. I wouldn't have said, but that is becoming somewhat of his stock in trade. He's got certain types. I spoke to your dad actually this morning about this, and he was a little bit frustrated by his lack of going down the outside of fullback, so hates that a little bit. Yeah, he does, and he has become somewhat predictable in that, obviously cutting inside all the time, and when you're not whipping it in,
but he doesn't shoot enough though. If you're going to cut in, at least mix it up in the thing that you do every time. Yes. So don't just try and just bend
add another string to your repertoire that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but no, that back post commitment to the cause to get there, and the bravery of which to do it as well. I think there's a lot to be said for that, and that's 7 goals now in 10 games for Cody Gakpo as well. So Anfield, even better, really impressive, and there's a lot of conversations, and there was a lot of sort of whose shirt is it around him and Luis Diaz. Now Diaz has sort of eased that conversation, and we've lauded Diaz for the start of the season. He had, of course, but he's moved into a central role, which may be a long-standing thing, who knows. But right now, Cody Gakpo's form and Cody Gakpo's numbers suggest that he's very much the man with that left wing spot.
Yeah, he's flying. Good on him. We touched upon the refereeing decisions or lack thereof. Let's do Tete on Gomez. It's interesting because in the coverage, it's nothing. You're watching the ball, so you're watching Cody Gakpo, and you're watching Liverpool trying to build something on the edge of the penalty area, and then Gomez, I wouldn't have told you that was the thing leading up to the incident, Kieo. But when you look at it back, I mean, Joe Gomez is perfectly entitled to make that run. He gets absolutely cleaned out. It's not his fault. I get it that it is totally accidental, I think, from Tete. Again, I don't think he's looking to try and deliberately volley Gomez up in the air. I guess inside the penalty area, right?
Yeah.
But what? If Luis Diaz is getting yellow cards for trying to score an overhead kick, then it's a foul on Joe Gomez.
The inconsistency, innit?
Yeah.
It does everyone's head in. It's always the topic of conversation. How can you be booked for an overhead kick but then wipe somebody out like that and just go? It's just the ever long thing of referees in there. I'm just sick of it. Just the quality of the referees in this game is just terrible at the moment, and it always seems to be against Liverpool that they have nightmares as well, and that's another thing that's doing me head in as well. Whether that's done by design or not, I don't know, but we're not getting into conspiracies. But the referee had a nightmare. We touched on it before, saying Van Dijk and the Fulham players are talking to each other, saying he hasn't got a clue here. Like, I'd probably been a bit nice there, saying he felt nervous. Yeah. What they're saying is he was crap there. He doesn't know what's going on. He hasn't got a grip of this game at all. But unfortunately, the solution isn't round the corner.
No, for me, I'm looking at it thinking, well, he's probably tried to block the ball from the shot, and that's why his legs gone out and stuff like that. But like equally, you've got Joe Gomez, who's not a small fella, running at you. You can see him. Like, you know what I mean?
You're probably acutely aware of the movements of the air particles around you.
Exactly. I mean, you can feel it, you can hear him, you can see him, he's running right at you. You whips him up and there's nothing. Like, how many times have we seen an off-the-ball foul given off a corner for a penalty? Loads over the years. So this, like, well, I don't know whether they've said anything about it or spoken about it, but it's like, but the shot was taken, but there was a foul also there. Again, if I punched you off the ball, it's still a foul if the ball's over that side of the pitch or not. This was a clear and obvious foul in the penalty area that should have been given a penalty. VAR should have been able to look at that. I don't know whether they did again, but they should have been able to look at that and go, well, that was a foul, and that's a penalty.
Well, that again, here we are, once again, another week. That's the kind of thing that VAR is meant for, right? Yeah. Like picking up on things that the referees miss. Maybe referees just follow and play.
I mean, Cody Gakpo saw it.
I think that's the definition of VAR. Yeah. That's literally the definition of VAR. Pick up on stuff the referees miss.
Yeah. Not re-reffing, just like say incidents that have gone.
But by the way, I can't help but feel like a year ago that VAR does that. Gives that,
the threshold's changed.
Yeah, exactly. The changing of the threshold means that they're now actively trying not to change on-field refereeing decisions.
He didn't make a decision about it.
But that's the argument against that, because if he hasn't seen it or is aware of it potentially being a foul, that's when VAR, I think it's Stuart Atwell, I think I'm right in saying, that's when he should step in and say, I think you might have missed this. I don't blame you for missing it, by the way, because the ball's nowhere to be seen, really. The ball's not in the picture, but this has happened. It was like the one, I think it was Anthony Taylor, and it was Mark Cucurella and somebody pulled his hair. Yeah. Like, the ref can miss that. The ref's allowed to miss stuff. Ultimately, that's why VAR was introduced. But when the VAR just sits there fucking twiddling his thumbs or having a brew or whatever and doesn't say anything, that's when you've got a problem.
And if he has seen it, then I think the VAR should be like, do you want to watch that again? Because we think it might be a foul. And if he looks at it and goes, no foul again, you think, well, you're shit at your job. But at least he gave him the option.
Yeah, it's your confidence.
Yeah. Just fucking wild, mate. I can't believe that wasn't a foul.
Yeah. I thought Fulham, Chris, were pretty good from there on. You know, around the 60-minute mark, maybe slightly before, they start to get a grip on the game. Liverpool still have a couple of decent moments, but it's in the build up to their goal, they're probably the better team, and we make substitutions in that period as well. I think you touched on it earlier. Trent could probably do. Well, could you have this? Could he bust more of a gut to get back into position? I guess is one of the arguments in the build up to that. We do get a little unlucky with the deflection off Gomez to take it in, etc., etc. But yeah, it's frustrating because even though Fulham are doing well, it does feel as though the overall narrative arc of that game is Liverpool are going to go and win this, rather than Fulham are going to go and score the second goal.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think for me, I thought Trent's position was terrible for the first goal. Yeah, I think you need to be thinking more about Robinson going around the outside, and he just got caught in no man's land. And if you look at the other three defenders for the first goal, they're all in a perfect line and Trent's 5 yards ahead of them, backpedaling slowly as you've got a lad who's quicker than you already, running full pelt down the left. That can happen, you know what I mean?
He jumps on the second one,
The second one, I think it's a consequence of him being in the centre from us having the ball, and he's therefore out of position. So he jumps forwards, fine, no problem with that. You caught out of position, fine, no problem with that. I think someone with more defensive instincts would think, rather than jump, I'll go to the lad on my shoulder and I'll retreat and get back in. But regardless, I think he's fine to do that. It's the fact that Robinson runs past him, he tries to grab him, which would have been a yellow card foul anyway, doesn't even manage to do that and doesn't get back.
Yeah.
That for me feeds the narrative of Trent's off, he's going to Madrid, he doesn't give a shit anymore. Like, and you look at that and go, well, can I really argue otherwise?
No.
Based on that one play?
And that, I mean, again, should we be making all of our decisions based on that? No, but it's Gravenberch's in there. It's like, mate, do everything in your power to cover your defenders. You know, we're down to 10 men. Our defensive midfielder, who is new to that role still, good as he's been this season, is playing centre half, because he then gets sucked because he's then got to make a decision on who he's covering. He's got to cover the runner, which leaves even more space exposed in the sort of right back area. It's one of them where Trent's got an opportunity, I think, to have a hero defensive moment there. And look, his instinct's always going to be from foot, and that's possibly the problem with both of their goals, really. When someone else does the defensive stuff and he's in the position to pick up the scraps and launch something else, he looks like an absolute legend. But when it doesn't, and you're right, with all of that narrative around him of people starting to question his commitment to the cause, he's done himself no favours.
No, he doesn't cover himself in glory. In evens, I actually had a bigger problem with the first goal to him, because he doesn't do anything for the first goal. He just kind of doesn't approach Alex Iwobi in possession to sort of deal with that and cuts out at source. And he doesn't really get back to deal with Anthony Robinson either. He just lets both things happen and just kind of pops himself in an area. But no, I think you're right, Chris, in terms of your assessment of the second. He has a couple of opportunities there to at least look like he wants to affect the game and make something not potentially become a serious problem for us, and he does nothing really. So it's not great. I don't buy into the whole, well, clearly his head's not here, he's already halfway to Madrid. I don't sign up to that personally, but I understand it at the same time.
He's never been really that, like, you know,
blood and thunder type
of footballer. Exactly. So, and footballers who are like that, when it's not going well, they call it like the language style, don't they? You know, which always ends up being a little bit of,
to get heat, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I think trying to read Trent's body language, and again, I watched that actively watching Trent and looking for this all-timer stinker of performance, and didn't see it, if I'm being honest, because I see it on the ball, and I've seen worse on the ball performances from Trent this season, and much better defensive ones. Well, he was actually quite good on the ball, and he played some fabulous passes, you know, line breaking, you touched it before, Chris, getting us up the pitch, doing things that he's good at doing. But yeah, I don't think the shift in formation, being down to 10 men, helps him, because we've overcomplicated his position, his defensive responsibilities. Maybe
I also think this is not to dig out Kwanzaa or anything. I don't think Kwanzaa covered himself in too much glory in that phase either. I think he's focused on pushing the player away rather than going and getting the footy.
He doesn't either.
And
he doesn't do anything.
I think he wins that ball quite quickly in front of Robinson if he's not looking back for him and trying to palm him off. And, you know, again, those little mistakes can happen, young players, experienced players, whatever, and hopefully Kwanzaa learns from it. It's just when you've got a few of them all in the same sort of 10-15 second period that you end up conceding a goal, isn't it?
I think there's another issue here as well. I don't think he's fully fit, Trent.
Well, the substitution would lend itself to that theory as well, because I don't know, maybe the game state did mean he had to come off, but it did surprise me a little bit, because it's about the 70-minute mark. So you might be right, and also because of the absence of Conor Bradley, much in the same way we spoke about Robertson before, he's just the right back now, because you've got Gomez covering for Canate, etc. Kwanzaa's not in a great moment right now in terms of his football career and where his head's at, so I think you might be right personally, which we're going to speak about Southampton later, is another topic of conversation there.
He's managing a season, isn't he, which is, you know, we don't really know what that looks like under the new manager, but he has been happy to rotate players that I think Jurgen Klopp we'd expect would just play. Might mean Trent starting in midweek, you know, because of the lack of other players you don't really know at this point. But yeah, it's disappointing, because again, that's one of those games where I was settled, because it's like, it's 1-1. the only way this game goes now is Liverpool winning this. Absolutely. Liverpool losing. Brilliant. Right, okay, Sal. I mean, what was great, the next set of substitutions, Harvey and Diogo Jota coming on, Kieo, brilliant. But, you know, again, Harvey Elliott, great to see him. He can have a really telling impact, I think, for us, particularly in this next month or two when things are getting a little bit busier again. And ultimately, Diogo Jota. Darwin Núñez has had his chance. He's had more than enough opportunities to get himself into get himself in the number 9, go and make that your shirt. It was wonderful just to see Jota come in and make it look pretty effortless.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm going to start with Harvey Elliott because I think there's a part of our fan base which have almost forgotten that we've got Harvey Elliott a little bit, and there's also people questioning where does he come in and where does he play. Not forgetting that, like, Jurgen Klopp absolutely loved him. He played so many games, so many minutes, and probably had a bigger impact than a lot of people realise on some of our biggest seasons under Klopp. Jota, you're right. It's just so refreshing to see I'm not going to say proper striker because Núñez, that's a bit sly on Núñez, but a proper striker come in and I'm not going to say it, but I can't think of anything else. I know exactly where the net is as soon as he comes on. And look, I'm not going to get on Núñez's back in the middle of a season at all, but
it was a good assist.
Yeah, exactly. And look, he's had his chance. You just said it there. I was hoping that when Jota went out with this injury, that Núñez stamped it and made it really, really difficult for Jota to come back in. It's been 2.5 years now. He's had so many minutes. He's had a couple of managers. He's had a lot of time off the fans. I mean, you'll play a simple pass backwards and he'll get his name chanted. Like, just because we all know that his head could go if we get on his back, because it did it early on a little bit. I think Pep Lijnders spoke about that. He didn't like the stuff that was going on online about him in his early part of his Liverpool career, and we all seen that we're not on his back, and now you literally put the ball out of play and get Núñez shouted. So the fans have had his back. He's had game time, he's had minutes. Don't feel like he's stamped his authority. And I think we had this question when we were away. Where do you see Núñez in 18 months, 2 years? Who's the number 9 for Liverpool? Because how old is he? 25. So when you see Núñez at 27 being Liverpool's main striker and one of the best strikers in the league. No.
You'd have to say no, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Right now, again, we do this. We go back and forth on Darwin constantly. You know, it's he scores a couple of good games. You're like, okay, yeah, sound, and then he has a few stinkers, and you can't help it. But I mean, you stand in hope that, like, people saw Jackson Martinez as one of the worst centre forwards in the Premier League, and he's found. I mean, he missed an absolute sitter at the weekend for Chelsea, but he's found a degree of. Nicholas Jackson, sorry, not Jackson.
Yeah, Martinez. It was,
Nicholas Jackson. Jackson Martinez, that long link Liverpool centre forward. But the point is, he was getting criticism left, right, and centre. He's found his form, and he's found goal scoring form. It can happen. I mean, even seeing Højlund for Man United, he's not scoring goals, but he's looking like you can see how he might be a threat for them. But Darwin's mad because yeah, it's a good assist. He works really hard. Jota doesn't score if Darwin doesn't put the shift in that he does in the build up to that. But then Jota takes one touch, takes himself inside, sticks it away, no questions asked, no bother, go and get the ball, crack on. No one bats an eye at Jota's back scoring goals. But we're going to need him now because we've now seen what the alternative looks like, and we've done well to carry ourselves without Jota. But yeah, I mean, we shouldn't be.
But Jota finds that space, doesn't he? You know, as the ball's going through to Núñez, I think Núñez is the further forward of the players, isn't he? And Jota's in that sort of more of a 10 position than anything else. And, you know, I think we've seen with Diaz's performance against Manchester City, I think it's unfair to probably look at Diaz's performance at the weekend, but Diaz playing in that sort of false 9 there, you're looking at it and thinking, well, if you've got Mo on the right-hand side, which hopefully we'll have for the next couple of years, Núñez just doesn't fit, I don't think, what Slot wants. Whether he's going to be a 25-goal-a-season striker or not is actually almost irrelevant to me at this point, because Slot didn't buy him, so he has no fucking love lost there. He doesn't have to do it the way that, like, Jurgen might have gone, where he's gone, well, I've spent 80 million on him, I really want him to work, I really like him. Slot's just going to look at it and go, well, he's not the right striker for me, and I kind of just want someone that is.
Michael Edwards and Cole were sitting there going, we didn't sign him. So,
but he's that ultimate example when you're comparing injuries with the other top teams, and if I was treating Liverpool the way I treat Man City and Arsenal when I'm analysing their injuries and the problems they've had, I would be going, spent 80 million quid on this lad. He should be your first choice. And I'm good, but in reality, we're looking at going, he's our backup centre forward. Jota's our main man, because stylistically, that's clearly the one that Slot wants in there. So he's in some regards, he's a mark of great squad depth that we've got in that regard. But also, you're dead right. If you were looking at, like, if Slot was allowed free reign now, if he could have accumulated all the knowledge that he's got and then rewind to the summer now and, like, you know, cheat this a bit and go back and go, right, and now know how this season's going to pan out, I'm going to go and buy the players I really want to buy, you would not be stunned if centre forward was one of the things that he went for.
If he didn't, to be honest, I'd be absolutely stunned if he didn't. Well, because again, it comes back to what Chris was saying. I'm not wholly convinced Jota is also the answer to that question.
Yes, because of his injury record.
Yeah, well, his injury record is a massive point and reason as to why that can't be the case. But I do wonder from the weekend, just sort of bringing it back to that, if roles reversed in that situation and it was Jota finding Núñez in that position, I'm not sure we get the same outcome. And that's kind of where we're at with those two, sort of, and what they're able to bring to the party. But yeah, I think the centre forward conversation.
But equally, that Luis Diaz header, I did think Darwin Núñez put us.
Probably should have scored. A great ball from Szoboszlai in that instance, but no, I think the centre forward conversation is a fascinating one, and B, one that will be happening behind the scenes already, because I don't think Darwin Núñez is the answer by any stretch in terms of the style, as you mentioned there, and the profile of striker that he is, and ultimately the performances and the output. And as you said there, Jota's injury record means he just can't be the answer long term for us.
The good thing is, though, I mean, looking at the bench, we could have changed the entire front three off the substitutes bench, which is a very nice situation to be in. Now, good, that's a timely thing for us to have. And in addition, just to circle back to Harvey Elliott, one thing, again, you must have forgotten man for us. I feel like we're dangerous when Harvey Elliott's on the ball. He picks that ball up on the in the right hand channel, tucked inside from Salah, and you're like, what's he going to do? And he's good. He's great in small space, so he'll give and go and receive inside the 18-yard box. And it was when he got that shot off, I was like, good, because again, I still feel like he's a young player, but he's not. He's a senior lad, and he's always conducted himself like a senior player for Liverpool. So there's like a bravery with which you could put a number of players. I don't see Szoboszlai. I mean, it's left-footed, so I don't see Szoboszlai doing that either way. But he's doing things that Dominic Szoboszlai, good a game as he had, wasn't doing around the penalty area for us as well. So yeah, look, plenty of encouragement, and rather than this end up being a let's slaughter Darwin Núñez segment entirely, we should definitely be encouraged, Chris, by, we don't know what we're going to get from Chiesa, and he could surprise us all as well, because we don't know what we're getting from him yet. But actually, just if we can just get Jota back for a bit and Elliott back in that side, again, the way it is timely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Harvey's definitely got something to give us. I think that shot where he just bends it over, the more I watch it, the more I'm surprised it goes over and doesn't go in, to be honest with you. And we created those chances and we continue to create chances. I mean, listen, Salah, if he had a better day, Salah gets 2 goals in that game. That's our player who, unfortunately, we've had to rely on over the last few weeks and stuff, and he wasn't able to give his best, I don't think, at the weekend. And, even late on, there's that one where it ends up Diogo Jota hitting the shot and it bouncing off their thing and going over. Salah's free there. How Diaz doesn't see, and I'm like,
With Van Dijk had to go
before, didn't he?
He's what?
He's half screaming for it.
Well, Diaz is trying to manipulate it and find space, but there's no space in that area. Frustrating.
It's the first time, and it probably goes in and game different, but it's just one of them. What you can't fault is Liverpool's work ethic and how they basically had the best of the game with 10 men and didn't let it affect them in any way, shape or form. And I came out of that game like really sort of defiant, like, this is it. These lads have shown us once again that they're up for a fight for a title this season, and that performance epitomised it for me.
I totally agree with that. That's what I mean. It's disappointing. I think it's aided, we've touched upon it, Arsenal not capitalising, City also losing as well. I mean, they're so far out of the conversation at this point, but still, it does make you feel better, because you fear them like the sort of horror movie villain will come back for one last scare at some point during the campaign. But yeah, the other results definitely, and the fact that maybe naively, I'm not overly worried about Chelsea. We're going to do that on the Bias Football Pod later, but
aren't you know?
No, really not. Like, but that general the general sense of just ultimate positivity from that, because I've seen Liverpool sides totally capitulate there, and you have a good go. You make a good fist of it. You know, you'll throw the kitchen sink at it and you lose it 2-0 because that's kind of what's meant to happen. And the disappointment actually was that we didn't go on and get the winner, and that's mental because we played for basically 90 minutes with
all the injury time. Yeah,
absolutely. I'll be honest, I was a little bit dejected, sort of immediately after the match.
Were you looking at the YouTube comments?
No, not even that. They were positive. Worry about that. It was mainly because you alluded to it earlier on, like you just envisage and imagine we are going to go on to win that game, and it felt like the tide of the game was that a little bit as well. Fulham were always a threat on the counter. I was aware of that fact, but I don't know, when it was 1-1 it felt poised for a big moment and a big win. I mean, obviously I'd sort of built myself up for that to happen, and then when it doesn't and it's 2-2, I did walk away a little bit crestfallen, but then over the fullness of the next sort of hours and even minutes that follow, you just think you had a bit of perspective, the circumstances, the sending off, the injuries, the suspension, you throw all that into the mix. You're aware of the Arsenal result by then as well, and all the things you guys have just said there in terms of the character, the spirit, the resilience we've been able to show. That just makes you go, actually, do you know what? We're fucking all right. You know what I mean? We're going to be okay. So yeah, I'm completely with you.
What was your set like after the game?
I had livelier ones. But it was Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So all good.
That's why people were back in the
seats. A little bit
seats.
slow because I think there's a mix of people come out that ground. There's like some are like they're really disappointed at it, but then people sort of realise, hang on a minute, we're still top. We're still top of the league. Arsenal have drew. I know City hadn't played yet, Chelsea hadn't played yet, but I think as the sort of the evening went on and people realised that, like, you know, it's not a bad result, because it's not a bad result. It's really not a bad result. You need to remember as well, you can't win every single game. What I'm a little bit a little bit concerned that is now they're drawing at Newcastle, because now we've drawn a couple of games. That's 4 points that I sort of expected Liverpool to get, or thought Liverpool are capable of getting. That are on the board now, which means this Christmas period there's a little bit less room for error. We've already had our little blip.
Like, yeah.
I consider Newcastle and Fulham at home 6 points, me personally, based on the fact that you just beat Real Madrid and just beat Man City and everyone's feeling good. And
you had a little bit extra time off.
A bit extra time off against Everton. So that's what's doing me head in a little bit. It's not the performance at all. It's just a little bit less room for that over Christmas. I want to see Liverpool put 4 or 5 wins together now.
Oh God, yeah, 100%. You're right. You know, you can have a dip. We do this every year. I was talking to someone about this at the weekend. That, you know, I did remember doing the books when we won the Champions League and then when we won the league, and we had our dip around like October, November, and our dip was drawing 2 games back to back, and everyone's heads fell off because, of course, you exist in this world where you feel like you've got to win every game every week, and Liverpool are not. They're not that team. Nobody's that team this year. No. It just so happens, though, that we are a cut above most everything else going on at this point. So you can, if your dip is a couple of draws, then for me, you're in a very, very, very healthy position. But you're right. At some point, that has to stop, and you'll have to get back to winning. But then we're back in the realms of like having conversations around personal anxieties and intrusive thoughts, aren't we? Of like, what could all go wrong here, and how is this all gonna fall down around our ears? And inevitably, when we absolutely throw the League Cup in midweek, people are gonna think it's all part and parcel of that. But more of that in part 2. Before we move on, a couple of things. Annoying that we didn't go on and get the win, because that's not the narrative. Alex Iwobi did take one full in the plums, though.
I was laughing my head off for a good 5 minutes.
The composure, I think I was very critical of Alex Iwobi on the pre-match Merseyside derby build. Me and Baz absolutely slaughtered him. He's been in really good form, as it turns out. But he took a Mohamed Salah master blaster to the bollocks. Not only did he manage to survive it, he managed to hold it together long enough to kick the ball out.
And then he went down like a fucking ton of bricks, though, didn't he?
What a performance! Give him his dues there.
I thought he was decent, Iwobi.
He's a good player.
I mean, I've always when he was at Everton, I thought he was crap. And when he left, I thought he's not going to do nothing. But when Fulham are good, Iwobi's involved.
That's Everton for you, mate.
We'll
do that.
There you go. We will be discussing Everton Football Club and what a glorious performance they put in at the weekend. We will be discussing the Manchester derby and the fallout from that, and Chelsea's title chances on the Bias Football Pod. That'll be on Redmen Plus a bit later on. But we're going to take a short break, and in part 2, going to look ahead to the League Cup. Southampton, managerless Southampton, potentially against Liverpool's kids. Let's have a chat about that after this.
Hey, week 3 of our incredible festive giveaways over from redmenplus.com. This week, we're going to be giving away Soccer Stars, Jeff Twentyman's book, Jeff Golding Stanley Park book, and a top prize, this by Peter Kenny Jones, the Tommy Lawrence book, signed by none other than the author himself, by George Scott and by George Sefton as well. Get involved by heading to redmenplus.com, signing up as a Legend tier subscriber or upgrading your current subscription to get your name in the hat for those daily draws. Don't forget though, stick around, Christmas still to come. Signed Kenny Dalglish shirt could be yours as well.
Oh yes, loads of goodies still to give away, even though we are less than 10 days away from Christmas now. We have got the signed Kenny Dalglish shirt to give away. That'll be done on the Boxing Day shows as well. So yeah, if you join up Redmen Plus as a Legend tier subscriber, yeah, you can get in with those. 2 prizes we're going to be drawing today. Chris, would you wonderfully model them? First and foremost, we've got one of our Under Armour t-shirts. Yes. The small detail on that one of his little head in the corner, which I noticed when I first. I was like, "This is brilliant!" And then you just see his little head in the bottom corner, sensational stuff. So that's the first prize we will be drawing right now. We've got the wheel of names. Everyone who's currently a Legend tier subscriber on redmenplus.com is on here. Let's give it a spin. Let's have some bit of a drum roll, please.
Kieo should be doing it really.
Tom's 8396, congratulations, you have won a Under Armour Liverpool t-shirt from redmenmerch.com. We'll be in touch for sizing details and all of that. Well done. And then second prize is Top Man Jeff Twentyman's story. Dan, you know a bit more about this one?
Yeah, I know Jeff relatively well now. I've done a few bits with him and bumped into a few different events down the years as well. He's a good guy, first and foremost, Jeff, and that should be enough within itself. But obviously, his old fellow was a Liverpool alumni, absolute legend. The story of sort of his childhood and what it was like growing up around similar Liverpool legends and icons. So yeah, really good book, really good guy. So yeah, well worth a read.
Let's see who's going to win that one. We spin the wheel again. Drum roll again, please, ladies and gents. /gents. Wally, there you go. I really had to read that one first before I committed to saying that one out loud. Congratulations, you have won Jeff Twentyman's book. Yeah, loads more stuff. Signed it, and of course the star prize, Kenny Dalglish signed Liverpool retro shirt, still to come as well. So yeah, perfect time to head over to redmenplus.com, join or upgrade to Legend tier status on there, and get your name on the wheel of names for tomorrow and beyond's draws as well. Okie dokie. Before we dive in, a super chat from Liam Farrell says, off-topic prediction, Christmas Day, happy Christmas theme, contract announcements for at least one of the 3.
I've thought this, Really? I've thought
Van
this.
Dijk in front of a tree.
It would be a waste if Van Dijk doesn't.
That's how he was announced, wasn't it?
Tree, isn't it?
That's how he was announced as a Liverpool player.
Tapping.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
I hope so.
Thought they were getting 3 presents though.
You still think we're getting 3?
I don't think we're getting 3
Oh,
presents.
you
You
don't
don't?
think?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you did. I do.
No, I agree. But like, come on, Liverpool, just sort one of them out, will you? Just box one. I know that we're talking about millions and millions of pounds, and it's dead easy for me to say, like I'm playing, who wants to be a millionaire on a pound in a quiz machine instead of it being like
totally okay to just guess it.
Pounds. Yeah, that
I'm guessing on the £500,000 question. What am I going to do? I've literally already spent the pounds at this point.
I'm not getting the key.
I'm a pretty good value for it at this point. Yeah, I've had a good game. If Liverpool could just box some contracts for us, that would be sensational. Anyway, yeah, Southampton.
Hang on a minute, which one don't you think's getting signed, Keeo?
I'm not talking about that now.
Okay.
Every friggin' week.
Changes every hour.
Just put it to bed, Liverpool, one way or the other. Right, South. Yes. Southampton. League Cup. Dan Club.
Hello.
No Andy Robertson. Unless he gets the ban overturned in the next sort of few, day or so.
I still maintain no Andy Robertson, even if that was the case.
Yeah. Tellingly, though, not on a slot. No, I didn't mention this in part 1. I meant to. Fucking hell, his head is going week in, week out with these referees. The bit where he was actively counting the goalie. Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, he's picked up a 1-match suspension for accumulated yellow cards. I want us, I'm going to do the boring caveat. Win every trophy if you can win every trophy, but I would not be crying myself to sleep if Liverpool got knocked out of this competition. There's a lot of stuff that are giving us a nice get out of jail free card if we wanted to ease our fixture congestion over the coming weeks by not winning this game of football. I don't think Liverpool players think like that. Liverpool players do not go on the pitch trying not to actively win football matches, but if shit was to conspire against us, not having the manager on the touchline would definitely be one of the contributing factors towards it, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it's nice to see, Arne following in Jurgen's lead by just jibbing the Carabao Cup, allowing the assistants to take control of that one. I imagine it'd be Hulshoff and Sipke Hulshoff on the touchline.
Well, Pep Lijnders is free now. Maybe he can go do his own job taking the press conferences.
Yeah, maybe that's a shout. Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, I agree. Ultimately, it's not a priority. It cannot be a priority. We know sort of how congested this fixture list is. How there's been some easing of the fitness/injury woes. You touched on sort of the strength and depth. Certainly in the attacking department of that bench at the weekend, it was very, very healthy. It's still not quite where I'd like it to be. Certainly not from defensive situation. So yeah, we have to be really smart, really clever with the game management side of things here. There's quite a few sort of no-goes in terms of who will be involved. There's some I'd like to see involved on the flip side because there's some that need minutes ultimately. I think we can still, to sort of round off the fucking long point I'm making, I still think we can name a team that's heavily rotated, heavily changed, strong enough to win this game of football is kind of the point. And that's what I want also. Because as much as I like the idea of Liverpool having only Premier League and Champions League and then the FA Cup comes when it comes to worry about, I also prefer the idea of us still being in the Carabao Cup post this match. What I don't like is just going full strength for which to do it. So yeah, that's kind of my take.
I think that's kind of what I'm saying, really, Kieo. Is that if there's a lot of people who will go, no, you've got to go and win this. So we're all saying best 11. So we're saying same starting 11 from the weekend. Is that what we're saying for this one? Because I'm not saying that. I'm saying what Dan's saying. Rotate the fuck out of this team, and if you get through, then you get through. I'll still be happy when we win.
I'm that person. Not go full strength. But I'm not normally the person that wants to win the Carabao Cup and see it as a major trophy and win everything. And I've been that person for years, but my experience is now telling me not only does it take it out of Liverpool, the players, it takes it out of me.
More important.
Massively. Takes it out of me. But I'm being serious, from experience, it doesn't work out, and it's so much harder to win the league and the Champions League when you're playing in 4 competitions. Having said that, I agree. We can rotate without doing anything mad and still win the game. The issue's the back.
Yeah,
we've got options. You can easily see Endo and Tyler Morton playing in midfield. You can see Chiesa getting minutes. Jota probably wants a little bit more minutes out there. So there's rotation to be it, but there's not room for rotation at the back. There's not room for any more injuries at the back. I mean, I wouldn't play Van Dijk.
Yeah.
I mean, fullback wise, I mean, you go Gomez in there and then Kwanzaa, but then who else plays centre? It's a bit of a nightmare at the back, to be honest, how you rotate.
It's kind of like, is it Gomez at left back and Trent and Kwanzaa and Van Dijk? Is there anything other than that you can do?
Trent just not getting 90.
I don't think Trent starts the game. I don't think he should. I don't think he should be. But I agree with what Kieo alluded to earlier on in terms of being not at it fitness wise as opposed to anything else. I'd begin the night off if I could possibly help it. I think James Norris starts at left back. He's been in and around the first team in terms of training. He's been in a couple of squads recently.
I wanted the name, I wanted his name. Wanted someone to tell me he was going to.
Yeah, I think James Norris might start left back for this one. He got some senior football under his belt. He spent last year on loan at Tranmere and had a decent go at it. So he's not inexperienced, not wet behind the ears, but any stretch of imagination when it comes to senior action. Marvin Allo is a conversation around
he was the one I was going to bring up to
a couple of times, hasn't he?
He's the one closest to the first team, I think, from the youth players that we've seen that have stuck around anyway.
Yeah, well, just as an aside to all of this, I think I mentioned this earlier on, the under-21s played this afternoon at time of recording, literally at 12 o'clock, and Nallo, Trey Naoni, Tyler Morton wasn't involved, obviously, either. Jaden Dans wasn't involved in that game too, so that kind of suggests that he could be in the senior action. And Nallo, as you said there, he's captained the 21s a little bit recently, so he is very much the senior one of those. And again, first team involvement in training, some squads. If we do want to do something with Van Dijk, as you said there, it's probably Nallo, but I like him on Nallo, but that drop off is it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Yeah. So from Van Dijk to Nallo, I don't know. Maybe you give Van Dijk an hour and then.
But is it Van Dijk picking up an injury? You don't need.
No, I get it.
Van Dijk hobble off on 30 minutes because some players clatter.
But you could have that with any game, couldn't you?
I know, I get that, but like
My back four.
Don't let the intrusive thoughts.
My back five, I should say. I think we're going to do. Kelleher comes in, obviously.
Yeah, but so before we move on to that, it's not necessarily. I know it would be Nello for Van Dijk, but it's not, because it's Quansah would probably play left side of the centre half, and then you're dealing with a potentially Quansah Nallo centre back pairing in that. Does that then facilitate that? Then not us, because involved in the back four, because you don't want to go
Quansah and Norris.
Too much. I think Quansah and Norris is okay. My primary concern was actually Nallo and Norris, because then that's the same side and it is too inexperienced.
Yeah.
That was my main sort of argument against
You're
that.
You're forgetting about Ryan Gravenberch again.
Yeah, of course, dropping back in there. Yeah.
Clearly, he's the best centre back of the football club now.
Yeah, it's fascinating one.
Endo's played up the back before.
Right back especially. I think there's something you could do there. Maybe Curtis Jones in a back up game at some point. But you want to rest him probably.
I mean,
Jones at right back.
We do this a lot, where we go, how does a heavily rotated thing? If you've got injuries, it's tough shit. Means that the senior lads have got to play more often than not, and it's just going to be interesting to see whether Slot looks at this and goes, silverware, I've got a real shot at silverware here, or does he look at it as someone looked at it and gone, mate, I get it, but equally look at what January and February looks like if we do get through this one. It has to be factored into thinking. I think you were kind of saying it before, Kieo. When Liverpool have had their best ends 2 seasons, we've gone out in the domestic cups pretty early in that as well. Now that's not conclusive, because
City have done trebles and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would. My thinking is, when you get to the quarter final, I think you sort of do look ahead. It's like, all right, it's 2 more games. 3 more games, sorry, is it still double semi-final, isn't it? Whereas I'm looking at the FA Cup going, is that 6? 3rd, 4th, 5th quarter, semi-final. I'm looking at that one, which is mad, because the FA Cup is traditionally the bigger trophy, but I'm like, 6 games is a lot different to 2, you know what I mean, for me. And I would be like, just put a team out that can win the game. Rotate as much as you can. I think maybe you make 1 change at the back, to be honest with you. Something like that. Maybe not 2 young lads. Maybe 1 young lad is okay in this game. And then you're going to get some rotation further forward.
Given the injuries, though, and the fixtures that we've got coming up, is it fair to say you do, kids, you do play a heavily rotated team, and if we get through, that's when you start taking it seriously, and that's when you start going, we've got 3 games here to win it.
Probably the time to do this then. Let's go through it, because I think Kelleher will be a shoe-in to play. Let's go front to back, because I think that might answer our questions defensively in some regard. We don't know how close Chiesa is to starting.
He won't start, I don't think.
So
I don't think he can.
I think he could. And the only reason I think he could is because his latest absence was purely illness related. Right? Prior to that, he played an hour and a bit for the 21s. So that's the last action he had, and that's clearly building him up to something else. He's been on the bench at the weekend. I'm aware he didn't come on, but I think there is a world whereby he could get an hour out of Chiesa, personally. I'd love to see it as well, and that would solve a whole different host of questions about other people and other positions. So I think it's a possibility.
It would be nice from Salah's perspective, and again, he just wants to play football and score goals, doesn't he? But if you're going to give someone the night off, this just feels like one of those games where 1 or 2 just won't travel, and Salah might be the obvious one. If Chiesa can start, then you probably turn around to Salah and go, it's all right, mate, go and get your feet up, go and watch this one on the telly. And that's where someone like Jayden Dan's on the bench comes in. Not that they play in the same position, but that frees you up to put someone like Dan's in there. I don't see him starting this, because we touched on it before. Jota probably just needs some sharpness, minutes under his belt. Elliott needs to play football as well. Yeah, I mean, Darwin, does he feed into that conversation? But then, is he starting on the left if you're doing that?
No.
So is Jota?
What?
Is Jota on the left then?
I actually think it might be Gakpo on the left and Diaz on the right, because I think he's managed those 2 players' minutes better than everybody else's.
You give it swapped and changed a lot,
and you can switch it, and you can switch around and stuff like that.
Then Darwin through the middle.
Darwin through the middle, yeah. That's what just because Darwin's much closer to full fitness, isn't he? Well, he is fully fit, essentially. And Jota can still manage those minutes a little bit.
Given Jota's injury, as you said before, was a rib injury. I don't think it's a case of you get re-injured again if he starts. I don't think it's a case of
muscular, is it, ultimately?
No, exactly.
I'm in the camp that he probably needs an hour. That'll do him good as opposed to anything else. I understand the fear of re-injury or injury, full stop. But also there's an element here, like what's best for him in terms of what's to come at the weekend. Because it's all well and good factoring in February, March, but in the here and now, between now and sort of, the FA Cup game, if you like, there's a really condensed set of fixtures. What's the best way of trying to win this game of footy and getting the best out of the lads we have at our disposal? And I think that might be an hour of Diogo Jota on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one to do because, if Jota's now just back and you want to get him up to speed, then you probably can pretend this is like a Champions League game or whatever, just to get him back in that swing. So Jota plays an hour and Darwin comes on and does half an hour, and there you go. That's back to the routine that they were in. It's what else he's looking to do around that, really. Is there anything else sort of creative, and how much does he want to rest and rotate? It is still a Premier League team for now. So, are they going to have some sort of like, not new manager bounce, but absence of manager bounce, maybe that they, and it's away. So there's a lot of other contributing factors. You won't want to get embarrassed. They'll think about momentum, I guess, in it.
Depends what they do team selection wise as well, Southampton.
Yeah.
Talking about bigger fish to fry, survival is theirs.
So
that's a good point.
Are we talking midfield then? Endo,
Morton,
Elliott. Does that pick itself, do we think?
The only wrinkle I would suggest is if he does Elliott right wing, which he has spoken about in the past. If it isn't Chiesa for an hour, is it Elliott for an hour instead?
And you get an hour for Elliott or a 75 minutes and 15 minutes for Chiesa. Maybe again keep Salah. Just let Salah.
That's still a thing
if you can.
Yeah.
And I think we would do that with Van Dijk if we had one more senior option.
What I don't like about this is we're almost shoehorning players in who can only play an hour. And that doesn't suggest to me like we're putting a side out to come win it, you know what I mean? If you're getting Diogo Jota on there for an hour, and who else did we say then? Harvey Elliott on there for an hour. These are players who need minutes, and Chiesa on there for an hour. Like that's like you've committed. I think
three of your 5 subs already.
3 of your 5 subs to lads who I don't know whether they're fit enough to start these games.
Yeah,
that's a fair point. And the alternative, if it was to be Elliott on the right wing, just for talking's sake, then you probably are Traoré, I would imagine, unless you ask Curtis Jones or Dom Szoboszlai to go.
And that's also
he only done really well though, didn't he?
No need to play,
exactly.
Don't worry about him.
I wasn't worrying that.
For those interested,
a little bit.
The players with the most minutes for Liverpool so far this season, Van Dijk's got more minutes than anyone. 1,890. Salah's second, 1,879. Gravenberch underneath him, and then you got a just shy 400 minute drop off to Alexis McAllister and Dom Szoboszlai and Trent. So I would be looking ideally to get those top 3 out of this side if you can. But it's the Van Dijk thing of he's the captain and you're short of numbers defensively, so he might just go, nah, it's fine, mate.
We did this in the Europa League a lot last year. It felt like we kept saying, well, Van Dijk just not travel to.
Van Dijk just kept playing, and he talked about it in that run as well. He wanted to. He's the captain of the football club, and he wants to lead them to trophies. That's what he said last year, isn't it?
Yeah, I get that, but I just think the risk of injury is just too big. If Van Dijk goes down injured. In that game, that is an absolute nightmare for Liverpool.
Good comment here from John Rooney. Says need to start McAllister. It'll be 2 weeks. He's not played when this game comes around, so he's the other one who you could. That means you could do Elliott right wing and McAllister maybe in the 10.
Have some experience in there, added experience
with Morton and Endo. That feels a lot more balanced.
Makes sense. I was aware of McAllister's sort of absence from football and potential need to get back up to speed, but he's so integral. Like I would have been tempted to give him a bit of time, potentially more. But an hour with McAllister again, it's another one of them though. Does.
Everyone's getting an hour, aren't they?
Yeah, we'll be done in an hour. For Southampton, we done in 14 minutes yesterday. So.
Anyway.
Don't need an hour.
Good point.
That 9-0 Twitter account came back out again, didn't
finally,
it? Ready and waiting.
What the thing I say with this is you always find these where you convince yourself that it's going to be wholesale, and it can be wholesale without it being a team full of children.
We're not going to see anything
four,
like last season again, are we? That's what you're saying, basically. Last
hopefully.
season was just a fucking one-off, but then
we won it. But it was circumstantial. Jurgen Klopp would never have chosen to play those lads in that game if he'd had anything like the players that he wanted fit and available. True. I mean, the amount of footballers who've got minutes, Jayden Dance would have been nowhere near Liverpool's team, just because he was so young and so raw. Bradley would have got minutes, and Bobby Clark would have got minutes, and ultimately Quansah. But then once you got beyond like James McConnell and those kind of lads, I don't think if you'd had more luck with injuries, I'm not sure we'd have seen.
Anyway, we're nearly at 2025, so it's my biannual pleading to the FA to bring squads in that you have to select for here, because I think the top team should be doing that. I think you should be able to give a 23-man squad at the beginning of the season. You can make a couple of changes, whatever. And if lads, if you are serious about youth development, then you give your youth development a competition that's actually fucking worthwhile.
You're talking about that pizza cup though that we play in with all the League 2 teams.
No, I just think it would be a fucking better way of doing it rather than like this. Now, at least fans would know certainly what the hell's going on each and every single game.
It pissed me off to high heaven, that 2005 League Cup final that we just rolled out. We like David Raven and all that had gotten us to the final, and then all the big boys come in and we fucking lost it anyway.
Just quickly.
And at least then, listen, if they want to select the first teamers for the competition, by all means do it, like, you know what I mean? But if you want to select, I just think it would be a fucking cool thing to do it, and it would make the competition more interesting for me as well.
Jayden Dance scored twice against Southampton last season.
Yeah,
kid's got history.
Yeah,
I really like Jayden Dance.
I do too.
I really like him. I think he's got something about him. Even when he scores, he looks like a Liverpool player when he runs away. He's made up, isn't he? And
I want to see.
I'd like to see him tomorrow.
I'd like to see. Look, I'd love to see more of him. But
60? Give him 60?
Give him 60. Everyone's 60, Chris. We'll finish the game with 5 men because everyone's got a pre-arranged 60.
We've done this wrong.
Yeah. But look, Jayden Dance coming on to run around for 15 minutes at the end of the game's no bad thing. It would be interesting to see how he conducts himself, because we do this. Like I'm a bit surprised we've not seen a little bit more of Tyler Morton, because every time he's played, I can see what a tidy footballer he is, but there's such a training ground led pecking order that comes to this, and we've got all 6 of our forwards fit now, so it would be an interesting decision of the manager to put Jayden Dance in ahead of, and it's 7 if you count Harvey Elliott. If he gets in ahead of any one of them, then that feels like a statement. I'm not sure what the statement exactly is until we see it, but it's either I don't rate someone, or I don't give a shit about going strong in this competition. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, cool. I won't ask us to firmly predict it, because therein lies the path to madness, but also failure, because nobody's getting that 11 right. Nobody, not even Chris Pager.
Not especially.
Okay, sounds. Well, listen, we'll call a close to the show this week. More chat to come from us. Kieo is going to be stepping out on the book tour. So yeah, make sure you head and pick up a copy of Kieo's book. We'll put the link in the description underneath for you guys to grab one as well. But yeah, come and join me, Chris and Dan, over on the Bias Football Pod over on Redmen Plus. Don't forget, if you join as a legend tier, you can get your name in the daily prize draws leading up to Christmas as well. So yes, thank you so much. Drop a like, 5-star reviews and all that good shit, and we'll see you all soon. Ta-ra.